Okay, so I came across this last night. I was reading it with a friend, and I thought this would be great to share. It's an idea that comes up in a lot of literature that's dealing with Lashon Hara, or perfecting our speech, but it's an idea that it definitely needs to be drilled home. So this is Likutei Moharan. This is Rebbe Nachman of Breslev. This is his teachings, lesson 113. It says, "For I heard in the name of the Baal Shem Tov," which was like his grandfather, "before any decree is passed against the world, God forbid, the whole world is gathered and asked if they concur with that judgment. Or the person himself against whom judgment has been decreed, God forbid, even he is asked whether he concurs, and thus the judgment is concluded." So the point is as follows: surely if he were specifically asked about himself, he would certainly protest and say that the judgment is not so. However, he is misled. He's asked about a similar case to his own, and he passes judgment. In this way, the judgment is concluded. This is similar to what we find in connection to King David, of blessed memory, when the prophet Nathan came to him and told him the story of the guest. And David answered and said, "As God lives," etc. And he says, "and as for the lamb," and this is in 2 Samuel 12, verses 5 and 6. "Then the judgment was passed against David precisely as he dictated." So this is the meaning of retribution is exacted from a person with his da'at, his knowledge. That is to say, they ask him his da'at, his opinion, his knowledge, and even so it is, without his knowledge. Basically, they ask him about his own case, and he passes judgment on himself, is what happens. And this is how, like, when we're dealing with other people, when you pass judgment on another person, consider that judgment to be passed on yourself. So, "For he knows not that the judgment is about him." This concept of how each person is asked is wondrous. But the point is that in all the conversations and stories that a person hears, there can be found exalted and lofty matters. One has to take great care in this, not to pass judgment until one has considered a second and third time, for such judgment is life-threatening. And this is one reason why we should consistently have give people the benefit of the doubt, have mercy on people, that kind of thing. These matters are time-honored because the concept of conversation contains exalted points. This is the meaning of Rabbi Chia bar Abba took sick when Rabbi Yochanan came to visit him, and he said, "Do you delight in afflictions?" And he answered, "Not in them, and not in their reward. Give me your hand." He gave him his hand, and he raised him. Berachot 5b. That is to say, if you do not desire them, give me your hand on this, that you truly do not want them. So he gave him his hand, and he raised him. So basically, if you have an opportunity, like, this is what happens. People just sometimes blatantly say stuff about people. They say, "Oh, well, they deserve that," or even with the situation with Iran and the United States, "Oh, we should go to war. We should destroy that country," or something like that. In reality, we should want peace between these nations. But some things can't happen the way that we want, but we should still hold that. That's the primary goal, is we want peace. We don't want people to be destroying the earth. Israel is a nation. It's supposed to be a nation of priests, right? And Israel is exiled amongst the nations of the world, simply as to act like priests. Like the Levites were scattered throughout the land of Israel to teach and whatnot. And that's what Israel's job is to be scattered throughout the world, to be like priests to the whole world, and to bring peace. Like, the whole idea is not to bring division, it's to bring peace. And I can't see that a lot of people are living up to that standard, but anyway, we don't want to pass judgment on people, because we're passing judgment on ourselves.